Tubers, tubettes, and of course the colorful collection of crazy people. Welcome back to the little channel. So today I'm going to do the final video about Thailand. I've got a little sidebar about that, but I'll get to it later. And the question's been asked by a lot of people, and we've been asking ourselves, Baby May's not here, but we have been having discussions. Should we stay in the Philippines, or should we just pack up our tent and move over to Thailand? I've got to confess, not an easy decision. In fact, I didn't even make the decision, or we didn't make the decision until about 2 days after we got back. And we were there for 6 weeks. And the whole time that we were there, it was pretty much in the forefront of both of our minds that we really just think we should do this. For the sake of those that don't want to listen to me babble on for 15 or 20 or 25 minutes, however long this takes, I'm going to go ahead and answer the question right here and right now. And that way, if that's all you tuned into to find out what we're going to do, I won't waste any more of your time. We are going to stay in the Philippines. There you go. How much fairer can I be than that? So if you stop by just to find out what we're going to do, you're out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day. I don't blame you for not hanging in there. But if you did hang in there, I'm going to go over some bullet points as to why we drew that conclusion, what we had to consider, and some of the method behind the madness, and I think it'll make sense to you. On a quick sidebar, before I left for Thailand, I called up a friend of mine who is very, very smart. I always have these 2-hour in-depth conversations about all kinds of topics. And I told him, I said, and he knows, he doesn't do YouTube, but he knows YouTube. And I said, hey, you know what, buddy? When I go to Thailand, my views are going to drop by 40%. And he said, yeah, I know. And he said, but this will happen, and that'll happen, and that'll happen. I said, yeah, I kind of figured that myself. And so I hate it when we're both right. Because every time I mention Thailand, 40% of my audience just bails out. They're not interested. So I was sitting around this morning and I was thinking, what video should I do today? And I said, yeah, what the hell, we'll do another one on Thailand and wrap the thing up. So I'm kind of sending a torpedo towards my own little YouTube submarine here. But what the hell? It's my channel. I want to talk about it. And if you want to hang in there and listen, cool. If you don't, I totally get it. What are the good things about Thailand? What are the negative things about Thailand? What are the good things about the Philippines? What are the negative things about the Philippines? And how did we decide that we're going to stay here? Here we go. Both May and I were impressed at the same level on every topic that I'm going to cover. Number one, food. The food in Thailand is probably some of the best cuisine in the world, much less the Philippines. And so I'm not going to sit here and disrespect the Philippines, but it's got kind of a boring menu at the end of the day. The food ranged from street food to restaurant food and all points in between. There was not a place that May and I ate that we didn't thoroughly enjoy it. It was, for May at least, it was a lot of new flavors and different types of food that she'd never tried before. Even though she's a seafood person, she had never had the array or the selection of seafood. She even ate a lobster while she was there. And just knocked her socks off. And I can't disagree with her because everywhere we went, I really enjoyed the meals. And on top of that, when we went to a restaurant, she pointed this out to me, was the efficiency of the service and of the staff. Light years away from the Philippines. I don't want to elaborate on that too much, but when we went into a restaurant in the Philippines, we had a menu, we had a server at the table, we got our drinks, we placed our order, and we got our food within 10 minutes, I guess. And guess what? We both got our food at the same time. So that was a major impression on her, and it was kind of a rekindling of an impression on me. So there's that. The food was a big deal. Number two, this applies more to May than for me, but I get where she's coming from. She felt a real sense of freedom over there. She didn't feel like she does here where she's got to kind of dial it back, if you will, here in the Philippines. There's just this weird dynamic that exists. Anybody that lives out here understands it, especially if they're with a Filipina. There's the judgment and the chismis and the gossip. No matter what you do, it becomes the topic of conversation. They're all paranoid about it. There is no exception to that rule. May is probably extra sensitive to it than others. I don't know, maybe she's just normal. Over there, she felt like she could dress the way she wanted to, which was a little bit more flamboyant, if you will, than it is here. And when she walked down the beach, for example, in her bikini, she said nobody looked at her, nobody was talking about her, nobody pulled out their phone to take a picture and send it to somebody else. Didn't happen. She felt totally relaxed. Along the line of clothes and pricing, she discovered a little place, and I'm sure there's a zillion more, but just in our little area, in the little bit of time that we had to do this, she found the equivalent of what's called an okai store. And that's where you come here and you buy used clothing. And it's $1, $2, $3 for shorts or a top or whatever. She found the same bargain, but the clothes were brand new. And not only that, but they were more her style. There was actually more variety, just a different look that she really cared for. Now, is that a big deal to me? No. But I can appreciate how she felt because, for once, she was just buying stuff that was never worn before. She was getting a bargain on it, in her mind and mine. That meant a lot to her. She had snooped around. She'd seen it for this much here and this much here. And then the final place that she dug out, she found it for 60% off of the other joint. And so she was really proud of herself that she got more bang for her buck over there. And we had to buy another suitcase. She bought so much stuff. And I just let her go gung-ho on it. So she felt more freedom over there. I don't think I mentioned infrastructure, but it's first rate. It's driving over there, even though it's on the left-hand side of the road, and it's confusing to me. The roads were paved. When we had flooding and whatnot, people came out very efficient. The response, May pointed this out. She said, look at I'm paraphrasing because she doesn't talk like this, but look at the response time of these people. There is a crew working on that, and there are policemen at the intersections, and they've busted a move and gotten together. This ain't their first rodeo. And one's directing traffic while the other one's addressing the problem. There was strong flooding out there, and she said, man, that never happens in Dumaguete. If there's a flood, there's just a flood. There might be some people out there in front of their own businesses working, but there's no state-of-the-art crew coming out to fix it. So not only was the infrastructure impressive, but the response time of the personnel and the way that they operated made a big impact. There were no brownouts during the entire time that we were experiencing this typhoon, I guess, or superstorm or whatever it was. And she said, man, and I was agreeing with her. I said, yeah, it's nice to sit here, stay on the internet or watch TV or make a phone call because we've had no interruptions. I could go on and on and on about that. And I have to temper it by the fact that we were also tourists. We were in vacation mode. I think we can all agree that things go really cool when you're a tourist. You're not really worried about the money. You kind of over budgeted, so you're throwing it at a restaurant or a taxi cab, all the conveniences. Again, like I said, she was able to buy clothes. I was able to go to restaurants, hang out with my friends, take trips. We saw, all the sights, all the touristy stuff, the Buddhas and the temples and the boat rides and the tours, and we did all that. And I know that once we get there, if we did go there, and we settled into a more sedentary type of lifestyle, that some of the shine would come off of that dime. But I'm convinced that as far as May's concerned, and pretty much as far as I'm concerned, is that would be okay. We're happy with that. We could live more out in the province. We could live more rural. As long as we're set up the way we are set up here, 15 or 20 minutes away from a hospital, 15 or 20 minutes away from a shopping mall or stores or a 7-Eleven, we're cool with that. And that's very doable in Thailand. So that's all the pluses. Here's the minuses of Thailand. Visa, much more complicated there than it is here. And I'll just leave it at that. Government stability. I've been there when there was a coup back in 2009, and they shut down an airport and I couldn't leave the country. And that's never left my memory banks. I've also been chatting with guys just 6 months ago, 8 months ago, that have come here from Thailand because they're concerned about the stability of the banking system, of the government, and it's just something that, like I said, I've experienced it firsthand. I couldn't fly out of the country. They had shut down the airport. There was this whole thing about red shirts, blue shirts, kind of like the Republicans and the Democrats. Okay, same concept. They were just butting heads out in public, and we were done. It was under a coup for a while. Lasted about 2 weeks, and I thought, I don't ever want to experience this again. I get the feeling that there's not much change there, that could sprout up at any point in time. This may sound nicky-nacky, but the police in Thailand just have a reputation of being on the take. And saw it firsthand. Never experienced it myself personally, but I watched a guy, foreigner guy, get pulled over. He was in full compliance of everything and still had to pay money just to keep moving forward. I never had that problem when I lived there, but I know it happens. Guys that are credible have told me there's a taxi mafia, there's a police mafia, there's a gambling mafia. There's kind of this undercurrent that exists there that I know that exists here in the Philippines, but it's not at that level. All right, so that's enough about Thailand. It's a beautiful country. It's easy to travel. It's easy to live. The food is dynamic, but it's got those things that make it more complicated than the Philippines. What's good and bad about the Philippines? Well, let's cover the bad. What it doesn't have is what Thailand does have. It doesn't have a wide variety of food that you can enjoy. It doesn't normally have great service. It has brownouts. There's electrical stuff going out all the time. It doesn't have a great response team. It doesn't have great medical where I live. That was the major point of us going to Thailand. One thing I forgot to mention, I better back up a little bit. We went there, we went to a hospital, we got fully checked out in 4 hours. They ran a litany of tests on us in an ultra-modern, state-of-the-art hospital. They got checked out, I got checked out. They did all this stuff in 4 hours. An hour later, they had all of the results in a report, black and white, with a private consultation with every doctor that had to do with my eyes or my bone density or my heart or the prostate, what else? Thyroid, liver. And they got the same treatment. So went from here to there to there to there to there, and bang, it was done. Okay, so that's Thailand. May, by the way, is in 100% great condition, and I am in pretty good condition. I've got 4 items to talk about, but nothing life-threatening, so we won't belabor that. I think I've talked about it a little bit in other videos. All right, so here in the Philippines, I know there's state-of-the-art stuff in Cebu. I know there's state-of-the-art stuff in Makati. I found that out after I did the video of going to Thailand for medical workups. People brought that to my attention. I didn't know that. Now I do, so thank you for making those comments. Even though you were being snarky, I still appreciate it. So out here, medical. I have a buddy of mine that I met 3 or 4 days ago who The day I left for Thailand was involved in a motorcycle accident. Him, his wife, and his baby. It wasn't his fault. He got clipped by somebody making a passing him. They hit his front tire because they moved back into the lane too quickly, and he got sprawled out. The wife was here, the baby was here, and he was there. Bottom line, nobody got severely hurt. They got road rash. They did, however, lay there for 30 minutes until anybody showed up. Granted, the local people were awesome. They came with umbrellas to keep them shaded. They didn't move them, but they did try to comfort them. They did try to make them a little bit more comfortable because it was hot out. There was a little cluster around the baby. There was a little cluster around his wife. There was a little cluster around him. And they just sort of, showed compassion and mercy on these people. And a half hour later, he said finally a medic showed up in a truck. And long story short, they made it to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, it was determined that it wasn't life-threatening. So him, the baby, and the wife laid in the hallway for 2 hours and before they had a room available. And then they wanted payment up front. Fortunately, he had a credit card, so he was able to get into the room. I'll revert back to medical in Thailand. If there was an accident, you would have a state-of-the-art ambulance pick you up the minute somebody called. You'd be taken to the hospital. You would need payment up front. That hasn't changed. But you would be scooted in and you would be attended to a lot quicker. Same thing occurs to me about heart attacks and strokes. I know 4 or 5 guys personally that have, in the last 6 or 7 months, have had either a heart attack, a stroke, or both. And they were in the same position that the guy that had the motorcycle accident. They laid there for 30, 45 minutes before they got treatment, and the treatment, according to them, was subpar. A lot of them have, I shouldn't say a lot, a couple of them went to America, they got treated there, and they discovered all kinds of stuff that was missed by the doctor here in the Philippines. Again, that's their story, not mine. So, there's enough there that you would say, why don't you just pull the trigger, Paul, and go to Thailand? And I'll tell you why. Number one, I'm 67 years old. I came out here 5.5 years ago. And I don't have any embarrassment behind this statement. I'm not the man I used to be 5 years ago. It used to be that when I was 50, I was a guy. And when I was 60, I was a different guy. And my friend Gary validated this for me. He says, you're going to notice, because he's in his 70s, that 10-year gap where you make kind of like the big change in your attitude or your knowledge or your wisdom or your outlook, it takes 5 years for the same thing to happen once you hit 50. And he's right. 5.5 years ago, I was a much better driver on the motorbike. I had better reflexes. I had much more tone in my muscles. My memory was a lot better. I was just quicker on my feet. I actually got up the other day and started to wobble. I lose my balance really easily. That didn't happen 5 years ago. So I'm feeling myself as time passes, as I age and my body degrades. These are not going to get better. They're only going to get worse. Do I want to go to Thailand and drive on the left-hand side of the road and in the right side of the car that I'm not used to or accustomed to? I've been driving for 50 years. I can tell you right now, that is going to be a tough habit to break. Didn't know you were buying a car, Paul? Yes, I am. I just mentioned that my reflexes, my eyesight, my tone, my memory, my hearing, you name it. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I'm scooting down the street either by myself or with May, and we get clipped or we clip someone, and we're going to go down on the pavement. I've always wanted a car since I've lived here, but I didn't feel 5 years ago that it was necessary, and I try to keep this minimalist kind of attitude going. I can't say that anymore. I don't want a car. I need a car for my own health and my own safety. That is a big priority to me, and we're going to make that happen, I think, within the next month and a half. We just got to squeak by Christmas, and then we're going to have to organize the funds for that and make it happen. But that's definitely going to be happening. Do I want to do that in Thailand? Nope, I do not. I do not want to try to make that adjustment. It might end up being worse than driving the scooter. Right-hand side of the car, left-hand side of the road, 50 plus years of driving. I don't think I have the ability to acclimate to that. Maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have. But I have to be honest with myself, and therefore I'm being honest and truthful with you guys. I don't have enough confidence. Maybe it's false fear, I don't know. But it just is what it is. It's what I think, it's what my gut tells me, and I'm going to follow my gut. So, language in the Philippines. Everybody here speaks some level of English. Everybody that we dealt with in Patong spoke some level of English because it's a tourist trap, if you will. It's got bars, it's got nightclubs, it's got restaurants, it's got ski-doos, it's got rentals, it's got elephant rides, it's got go-karts, all the things that May did. And everybody there, they hired them because they were able to communicate limited in English. The minute you go out of the province of Thailand, into the province of Thailand, that's going to end. That could get old. It did get old when I lived there because I would take those trips. And again, it's not only an inconvenience, but it could actually turn into, at my age and level of competence, into a safety issue. May and I were driving the scooter. We couldn't find a gas station out in Thailand, and we asked 4 different people where to buy gas, and they didn't have a clue what we were talking about. I was using petrol. I was pointing at it. They just didn't know. It was like I was speaking Klingon to them. And I don't blame them. Why should they know English? No one's making them go to school for it. I should know Thai. So the English here in the Philippines is a major plus. The visa situation is a major plus. Being able to own a car and drive it with confidence is a major plus. So I've talked that over with May. There's other reasons. Again, I don't want this to go on forever. I could go on for 2 hours. God, I'll spare both of us. May and I talked it over, and we came to what I think is the perfect solution. We're going to make a move to a different type of dwelling, if you will, one with a carport, and it's going to be about the same money, so no harm, no foul there. We're going to have the automobile. We're going to have a place to store the automobile, use and get the use of it. We'll still have the scooters for the short jaunts, and we are simply going to budget. We get a raise, or I get a raise on my Social Security. May's got her side hustle with YouTube. I've got my side hustle with YouTube. We've always packed away that money. We've never gotten extravagant or anything up until this trip. And it wasn't that big of a budget buster. Even though we had to double up, it still was doable. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the Philippines our home base. We're then going to plan 1, 2, 3, I don't know how many, at least 1, possibly 2, and up to 3 trips per year out of the country. We might go to Singapore for the weekend only because it's expensive. We might go to Kuala Lumpur for a month because it's cheap. We'll go to Vietnam. We'll revisit Indonesia. We'll go to a different part of Indonesia. I went to Bali. Maybe it's time to try Jakarta. And May and I will just go and do the same thing that we did when we went to Thailand. Experience the people, experience the food, experience the culture, see what's different, see what's the same. And hey, you don't know. We might go to Ecuador, and we might decide that's really the place that we want to be. Not Thailand. Ecuador's got the place that we dig. So we're going to go ahead, and for the next year or two, we're just going to kind of bounce around the globe as the budget will allow. We're going to have to wait for the super special deals and the discounts and all that kind of stuff, and that's okay. We can cut back here, and we can set aside for that and make that our priority. One other thing that I want to just conclude with, why the Philippines wins in my heart. I can't speak for May on this one. And that's the people. Remember when the guy fell down on the scooter a little while ago and his wife and his kid was laying out there? The people came out and assisted him. The Filipino people are the most compassionate, fun-loving, easygoing people on the planet. I'm convinced of it. No disrespect to the Thai people, but I saw somebody in an accident, and myself included, unfortunately, we all just drove by. We all just kept along with our business. Would someone dial 911? I'm sure they did. I'm sure the shopkeeper that saw the accident did, or the bystanders. But nobody crowded around with an umbrella to keep them out of the rain. None of that. And again, why should they? It's not their business. But here, the people will go the extra mile. I've never met, they call Thailand the land of smiles. I can tell you I get a lot more smiles here than I did in Thailand. There is a disconnect that I have with the Thai people, and it's not intentional. It's not a prejudice. It's nothing like that. But there's just a connection that I have with Filipinos, men and women, that I just can't close the gap with people in Thailand. I think it's just cultural. I think a lot of it's language. I think of it, a lot of it's maybe the Buddhists versus the Christians or the Catholics. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I don't have the answer. I can tell you that I feel it. I don't have a valid explanation, but I can tell you this. When it comes, push comes to shove, the Philippines, with all of its inadequacies, with all of its shortcomings, it has what I think is the most important thing on the planet, and that is the ability for human beings to truly connect with each other, no matter where they're from. All right, kids, we will see you, hopefully, in the next video.